Well, if you are planning to have a baby, well, listen up today. We're going to be talking about the growing role of the doula on today's show. Hello, I'm Shannon Skinner, and this is Extraordinary Women TV. My next guest is Adrienne McRuvie. She's a chiropractor and a doula, and she's here to provide some fantastic advice on why pregnant women should consider using the services of a doula. Later in the segment, before we take a break, I'll have my regular Good to Know Minute when I ask my guests for their top success tip. You'll hear Adrienne's. Hello, Adrienne.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. It's nice having you here on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, you're a chiropractor, you're a doula, you're a yoga teacher as well. Mm-hmm. What inspired you to become a chiropractor?
Probably my chiropractor. I just, how I was very, I loved what he did, and I kept watching him and saying, I want to do exactly what you do, but I loved the idea that it was hands-on, that it was drug-free, and that you could, like yoga, take it anywhere, help people, and it was very sort of transportable, but also it was a really great way to connect with people and help them on a journey. And my mother also had a fantastic experience at which one point she was bedridden and a chiropractor came to the house, and by the time he left she was up and walking. So there's some other foundational moments that I just knew that it really made sense and helped people.
Now, there's something magical about being a chiropractor.
There is.
Some people call a chiropractor a chiropractor, which I think is very endearing, but it says a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, chiro, it means by hand. So I just love the thought again that you could make a big difference to someone's life by touching them and caring for them.
Now, a lot of people have this idea that a chiropractor moves bones, but I mean, this is more. There's more to it than that. I mean, what really does a chiropractor do?
Well, what I say that we do is we have a conversation with the nervous system,
right? And
the nervous system downloads into every other system in your body. So it's not just about bones. And I know I have to keep telling people it's not just about your back, right? We treat everything, and once you treat the nervous system, you treat everything. So in some effect, you're treating the whole person, which is also what I really like about it.
So why is what we're talking about is mind, body, spirit, really?
Yeah.
And why is that so important to being healthy?
Well, I mean, from my yoga training,
I mean, the connection of mind, body, spirit. I mean,
yeah. Why is that important for being healthy?
For being healthy, yeah.
I mean, it's just because it incorporates all the parts of who we are as a person, right? Like, I mean, I think most of us that live our days, we are very heady and in our brain and inherently imbalanced for most of the day. And practices like yoga, practices at which we receive self-care, like chiropractic, those are the moments that we actually can tap into. How do we feel? What is our soul telling us in that moment? How does our physical body feel? So there can be this, there's no one part of us that's at the forefront, that everything is having a whole or a sense of union about it, which is, again, but just being more connected to people around us and to the universe, really.
What does the state of health look like?
What does the state of health look like?
I mean, what is health? If you could actually describe when somebody's in a very healthy state, what does it look like?
What I say to people when I feel them, if you will, I feel flow. I feel softness in tone. After a yoga class, I see people's eyes twinkle. I call them yoga eyes. So I just and I always say health is more than absence of pain, because often people, come in saying, I'm in pain, but to me, then you need to get out of pain, and then you need to feel better than you already feel. It's not good enough for me to feel good. You need to feel better than good.
Right.
So it's always about trying to achieve, how do you connect all those parts of you, and then how do you bring more of that sort of joy and the spirit to the forefront? Because again, I think we can live a little bit too much in our brain.
So from chiropractor, yoga teacher, chiropractor, to now doula, you've added to your roster of hats.
Yeah.
You know, what is a doula, first and foremost?
Well, it's a Greek word for mother's caregiver.
Right.
And it is informational, physical support for a laboring mother. I mean, and if you're postpartum doula, then after as well. But a labor doula just basically is like a mother to the mother.
Mother to the and
mother to the mother during labor.
And so during labor, so a doula really only comes into your life then when you're giving birth.
Yes,
okay.
or after. There are, again, postpartum doulas who will stay for, you know, as long as you want them to help you with your new baby.
Now, you're a mother yourself.
Yes.
So was there something about being a mother that inspired you to become a doula?
Well, I became a doula before I became a mother, and I was the only one in the class who did not have any children. But I always, and during my first birth that I attended, I feel like I was a great doula, but I feel now I'm a better doula just because I can say I know what you're going through and really mean it. And so I feel like as a mother there's a depth to the job that I can just talking about like having silence and understanding when not to say things, and there's just a real subtle nature about what I understand now from being a mother to add to the role as a doula.
Did you have to go to school? Do you go to school? Is there a doula school?
Yeah, well, it's like, I mean, it's actually like not a lot of training. It's more hands-on training.
Right.
So you take a weekend course and then you attend births. That's sort of the training, and it is a hands-on sort of training. You need to kind of learn on the job.
It almost sounds that. It's so practical, isn't it?
Well, and I mean, because I just tell people I'm like a coach. Right. I don't do anything technical. I don't take your blood pressure. I don't do any checks of any nature. I'm basically like, I'm like the rah-rah section, and I try to keep you going, you know, and just laboring on.
So you attend births. You're there with the mom to be before she gives birth, and then after she gives birth. Yep. But it's not necessarily always a home birth. I mean, you go to hospital births as well. Is that right? Yep.
Either hospital or home, and either one is, you know, beautiful experience, but I think the biggest role as a doula is to support whatever the laboring moms and couples wishes are. So it's not about imposing your ideas or views on them. You basically support whatever they desire. You can explain the pros and cons, and, you know, give your view on things, but it's about supporting their wishes and their goals.
Is there a lot of demand for doulas? I know that it's growing in awareness.
There's definitely, I would say that. I've been doing it for 5 years, and it's always been. I have a practice in Toronto, so that's been my chiropractic practice in Toronto. So that's my. And
the name of your practice is?
Oma Chiropractic.
Oma, right?
Yeah, and which means grandmother.
Okay.
And so it's always been that sort of where I am during the day, and then I say I only take one birth a month, so it doesn't become overwhelming for me. And it's one of these things that once you get that little bug of attending births, it's kind of hard to. I sometimes think waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning is, you know, and getting sometimes pulling all nighter and going to work the next day is sometimes a bit much. But the moment that baby's born, I just think, wow, this is why I do this.
Has that helped you, do you think, be a better mother?
Yeah, I think I mean, it's always my goal to be more present. I mean, being a mother is so demanding in so many ways, and I think probably one of a continuous challenge I have two young ones, so I have a 4.5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and they're constantly pushing my boundaries, right? And just from having children, they change you physiologically, they change you physically. They, again, and they just, they do all their things to poke and, make sure that you're growing on your own. So it's, but they definitely made me a better person.
So, Adrienne, we are going to take a break. And before we do, I know this is my good to know minute. I know you've got a great success tip, so jump right in there.
Inspired from the 4 agreements, be impeccable with your word. We use it a lot at Oma Chiropractic, and I just, I think do what you say, do what you're going to say, and say what you mean. And silence is sometimes just as important as words.
Silence is just as important as words. That's good to know. Thank you so much. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, more with Adrienne McRuvie, chiropractor and a doula. So stay where you are. Hello, I'm Shannon Skinner. Welcome back to the show, and I'm speaking with Adrienne McRuvie. She's a chiropractor and a doula. She teaches yoga. Now, we're talking about the growing role of the doula, and it really has much more of a role in women's lives now, pregnant moms to be. In your opinion, why should a pregnant woman, consider the services of a doula? Let's talk about, the reasons why it's important.
Whenever I'm interviewing clients for the first time, I always say to them, regardless whether I'm there or not, you're going to have this baby. But by me being there, I feel like the quality of your experience is that much greater. And in the sense that you're just able to create an environment, a really safe, well-informed, supportive environment for both the mother and the partner, whoever the partner is, to just bring this baby into the world, just feeling well supported and loved and have continuous supportive care.
So it's enhancing the birth experience.
Enhancing the birth experience, yeah.
Right.
Definitely. If you YouTube like animals in the wild giving birth, like I always say, just do it. Even with laboring or pregnant couples, you'll see that elephants, for example, they'll take their trunk and make a circle around the laboring mother elephant. So it's about the partner and the doula creating this almost a circle around the mother wherever they are, in a hospital or at home, to create a space, a space of safety, so they feel, again, nurtured, loved, and supported.
For women that are giving birth in a hospital, maybe having a doula is even that much more important than home, because such an otherwise sort of cold, sterile, busy environment, the hospital.
Nurses are overworked, and they're the ones who, for the most part, are at your birth. I think for the most part they enjoy doulas being there because they feel like, again, there's someone continuously who understands what a normal birth experience looks like, and that if something does look like it's going off the rails, that the doula will know that this isn't normal, so they'll come get them. But I think the component of they're there to do their job technically, whereas the doula's there to almost energetically hold a safe space, and again the care component of touch and supportive words, which is much. Again, you get a great nurse, of course they're going to tell you you're doing a good job, but it's different from coming from a person that you get to know personally on a personal level and you care about.
So then another reason is it gives women the best opportunity to birth naturally.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the studies that have shown that when you have a doula, the chances of a C-section, I believe, are reduced by half. The length of a labor is reduced. The chance of you receiving an epidural are reduced. So in studies that they have done, that's, it's amazing how just having that continuous, even versus intermittent. They've also done studies where if you have a doula that is there present through the whole thing, except, mind you, for going, except to go to the washroom or have a snack, then the partner would be there, versus intermittent, where they leave for a chunk of time, that the woman will vie for the epidural or something else will happen.
And which brings up something we were talking about during the break. I have friends who gave birth some years ago in a hospital with an epidural, and they now say that they regret the epidural because it's caused some problems for them, and now years later they've discovered that, and they've both said to me, "I'd wish that I'd known then what I know now, and I wish that I would have really seriously investigated having a home birth." I mean, any medical procedure has risks. Whenever I have a client, I explain to them beforehand what could happen and the chances, what are the most probable things that could happen from having an epidural, what are the side effects, because often those aren't explained very well, or during a moment of I want this epidural, they're not listened to very well. So, and at the time that a woman wants an epidural, there's nothing really stopping them. So I don't think that you take those risks into account in that moment. So I always say, if you know the risks ahead of time, then you make that choice. But if you're at home, I always explain it to people. It's like when you're at the hospital and somebody goes and it's like being in a candy store without being able to have candy. So if somebody says, you're at a candy store, would you like some candy? The woman goes, of course I would. It's just if it's there, you're vulnerable. You're susceptible to suggestions, and it's how you word things and how you phrase things. So if a nurse says, "Would you like an epidural?" Of course I'd like an epidural. So it's about, if you're at home, you don't have that choice, right? Or it's harder to make that choice because you have to hop in a car. Home births have their risks too.
Of course they do.
I certainly know of 2 women who had some fairly serious issues. With a home birth. Yeah. So it has its own risks.
Yeah, I mean, I had both of my children at home, and I trusted in my body in a non-complicated birth with low risk, that I felt comfortable, I felt at peace. I think it was the best birth experience for me. I wouldn't say it would be for everyone. I think people just have to feel comfortable, and their partner has to feel comfortable. But my midwife said to me, they would never insure us if it was that risky. And it's true. When it just comes down to numbers, they would never be able to insure them. And I think midwives they have a very difficult job, but also a very amazing job. I've been to a lot of home births, and if anything even looks like it's going to go wrong, they go to the hospital. So hospitals are very close, and usually 5 minutes away from anywhere in the city. And so I've always had great. I would say I've been to more traumatic hospital births than home births.
Well, that's actually really great insight, isn't it?
Yeah, because there's more chance of risk when you add interventions. Anytime you add a medical intervention, there's more chance of any risk.
So now, another good reason to have a doula is to support the partner.
Yeah, the support.
Right.
I've had partners who have run marathons or avid hikers who can be on call for 48 hours and say there's nothing like the experience of trying to support the person that you care for and love and see them in discomfort. So it's interesting how that is emotionally draining and physically draining. It's quite a job. So it's the doula's role is to then be a mirror. The partner can observe the doula instead of like, is this normal? Like they'll often say, is this normal? They should act like this. And that you can they watch you and almost get your vibe and follow it. Which is nice. Pick up on your calmness and allow them to enjoy the experience, because I think, you know, if you're in the city like I am, not many, you know, you're going to have 2 or 3 children, and so those are very pivotal and important moments in one's life, and I would hate to think that couples wouldn't have an enjoyable experience, that they would have an experience when their child was born that was not enjoyable and traumatic, or one of those moments that they couldn't enjoy each other.
Do you ever feel there ever any times when you think, oh my God, I should not be here? Almost like a voyeur, or
No.
oh, this is a time when maybe I shouldn't be here in this experience?
No, never. Like, I think that I always feel like there's moments at which I felt my role has been different. I feel like there's some moments that some women demand more physical attention, while some women, I never say, you never know yourself until you're how you're going to be until you're actually in labor, and a lot of women like a lot of hands-on physical attention, and some women just say, get your hands off me. So it's interesting. You never know how a laboring woman's going to react to things, so you just go with it. And so if it's not a physical support, then it's more of a verbal support, and telling someone they're doing an amazing job, and being the water girl, you know, bringing water, bringing snacks, telling the partner to go eat dinner, you know, things like that, where you're just making sure that everyone is, again, the environment is kept calm. And
it just sounds so nurturing.
Nurturing, exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
Just being a nurturer.
Well, I said, you know, you're being a mother to the mother, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, you're kind of being a mother to the partner as well. I feel like I've done every job that a mother does to a laboring woman, like cleaned up vomit, wiped tears, kissed foreheads, massaged shoulders, head, feet, hands, you know, like every job that there's moments that a laboring woman, you know, I've met her twice, and just after they'll just say, I love you. You're like, I love you too. Where it's that moment at which a baby's born that like that sort of emotion comes out, and it's a pretty powerful, profound one.
Now, what about, you know, one last point is, it's a long-term role or effect of a doula.
Yeah, and I feel like this for me is still something I'm exploring, and some of the studies that I have read, there was one they did in Guatemala about women who had been supported by a doula. They were looking from a two-way mirror, and women who had been supported by a doula, when the baby was born, those women were much more affectionate, stroking, smiling, much more inclined to breastfeed right away. Whereas the women who had maybe not as a supportive experience did not have the same sort of initial connection with their child. And again, I don't know, like it's one of these things that I feel like is slightly intangible, but with rates of, you know, postpartum depression and those moments that being a mother is hard enough. You know, those small moments of being able to connect with your newborn on that day, moments after they're born, I think is so important. And again, studies they've just done that, you know, there are less abandonment issues, and again, increased rest of breastfeeding, which is healthy and best for the baby. So all these things that are, you know, there's some studies that have been done, but I feel like there's so much intangibility that, you know, I always observe it and just know that even talking to moms, because I run a mom's yoga group, and part of that circle is just to explore all the things that women go through every week and how their babies are doing, and that's a big one. Like, how are the first 6 weeks of having this baby, and what do I do with them, are big ones.
And what do I do with them?
And what do I do with them?
Yeah, because it's quite a, you know.
It can be a very isolating experience
Right.
for a lot of people, and it is. I mean, I remember having those moments myself as a mother when my husband went back to work after 2 weeks, and I'm like, what do I do with this baby alone? Right? How do I have a shower? How do I make food? What do I do? What do I do when they won't stop crying?
Well, Adrienne, you know, it's been such a pleasure having you here. Unfortunately, the time is up, but I've certainly enjoyed learning about the role of a doula.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom and your insights. So
Thank you.
really
Thank you for having me.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Well, for more information about Adrienne McRuvie, you can visit my website at extraordinarywomentv.com. There you'll find this interview and her bio and other information about her. Of course, if you're interested in finding out more about upcoming shows and guests, you can also find that on the website at extraordinarywomentv.com, and you can certainly reach me through the site. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, there's lots of places to connect with me. If you follow me on Twitter, I'll follow you back. Well, if you are interested in transforming your life, I hope these stories have inspired you. You've been watching Extraordinary Women TV. I'm Shannon Skinner. See you soon.